On this week's episode of An Echo of Glory, we look back at that heavy defeat at Newcastle. The guys tell me to calm down about Ange. We have some sense to the proceedings with Darren Lewis, a Mirror journalist, joining us. And we also talk to a Spurs legend, former captain Jen Schillaci, on the ladies reaching Wembley. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. I'm Jonny Blaine. Joining me, Jake Robson.
Good morning.
Sky Sports' Jake
afternoon.
Robson.
Oh, yes, very good, very good.
Why? What have I missed?
Where have you been, Gary?
Around.
No, I worked for Sky Sports as a reporter for the first time on Friday. So, yeah, good crack.
Oh, congratulations.
Went to Luton. Thank you.
What did you report on?
Does it make me more or less legitimate? No, I didn't say that.
Proud father.
Oh, you are?
Echo of Glory is a proud
What does that
father.
make Gary if you're the father?
Sister.
The half brother. half sister.
What are you... Okay, so any more of those in the pipeline?
Maybe, let's see. They only book you really on Friday.
Okay.
Sorry, Thursday for the Friday.
Okay.
So we'll see. Hopefully. Don't know. Depends. Did I do a good job?
Yeah. All right, I'll
There you
introduce you. And Gary Diamond. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Any Sky Sports shifts this week?
No, absolutely not.
Anything to report?
Not from me. I mean, not no.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Good weekend away from the football?
I had a great weekend.
Go on.
I actually went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday, would you believe?
Okay.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
I went to do the go-karting, the F1 go-karting.
Oh, nice.
We've
talked about I don't really like go-karting.
I love go-karting.
Ah,
Was it
you'll like this. If you like go-karting,
Yeah.
you will love it. If
Excuse us,
you
Jonny, we're
if you
gonna
don't
have a
like
chat.
go-karting because you just don't, yeah, exactly. Go. I'm not, I'm not a mouthpiece for the club, but it is amazing. If you like go-karting, it's amazing. I mean, it should be, right? Because it is the official hookup with F1. It's F1's like official hookup with Tottenham.
Yeah.
If you like go-karting, it's great. The cars are really fast.
Is it different to other go-karting?
So firstly, the organisation from when you arrive to when you leave is like clockwork. Everything works fantastically smoothly. They get you overalls, helmet, all this kind of thing. They've got lockers. They get you in for your qualifying. Firstly, they get you in for your not an induction, but there's a video that you watch.
Safety thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Then you do qualifying. Then you have a gap, and then you do the race.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And
The
how
cars
fast are they? Fast?
They're
Like-
fast.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast they go, but they're electric. So I don't know. A lot of people might have never done electric go-karting,
Yeah.
but I mean, everyone knows electric cars. The acceleration on them is quicker than most petrol cars, just
Is it
because
really?
of the way. Yeah, just because of the mechanics behind it. I
But
thought
then do you
didn't know
lose the
that.
authenticity of the
So
cars?
are you interviewing him about... I want to talk about...
No, we've been talking as a group, our boys group, about
Yeah.
going, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
actually, I'm hoping that Jake's going to start selling it a bit
No,
more.
no,
because
it's really good. So yeah,
We
okay,
don't have
there's-
to talk about Newcastle if we
there's-
can just
there's
talk
no
about
s-
Sonic.
there's
Let's
no
just talk about
sound.
Newcastle.
No, I'll tell you,
don't want to hear
there's
about
no
it.
sound, but they kind of pipe in sound, and there's also
Oh, well, like the club used to do with the cheering.
like the club used to-
Allegedly.
like North Korea does. And you've got a screen in front of you on the steering wheel telling
yeah.
you when there's yellow flags or when there's blue flags. You've got DRS zone.
Really?
This is proper stuff.
We're going to talk about
It's
some.
proper
We're going to
stuff.
talk about some red flags
Go
later.
there, and you get to go.
Really?
Although we went on Saturday, night. So the shop was
cool.
closed, but you go into the shop and you walk through the back of the shop. They take you. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
sick.
like, yeah.
Amazing.
You're in the bowels of the stadium.
Sounds great. What I
Amazing.
will say was
Arsenal fans will love it.
thanks for the invite.
Thanks, you're welcome.
Okay.
You didn't even want to go anyway.
Not with you.
Why don't you like go-karting? I think that's more interesting.
Boring, isn't it?
Jeez.
I think he feels that his cart's weighed down a little bit more.
Ah.
Listen, I like speed. I've been banned from driving twice.
Jesus.
These are not fast enough for me.
Actually, if you, they do ask for your license, so you might be in trouble. They don't.
I'm not
ask
going to
for-
out you here,
No,
but
no,
I
yeah,
know how many
right.
more
Mr.
points on the road than Tottenham Hotspur over there.
Jeez. Yeah.
Wow. Oh God, you're really learning already. I know you're revving to go.
Oh, very good.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I am revving to go. Let's do some club
Right.
news first. The under-18s lost 4-3 home to Fulham. Boo. The
Bit of a topsy-turvy game, that.
yeah,
1-0 down, 2-1 up.
yeah, they've been a bit topsy-turvy for the last few weeks.
Yep.
The 21s beat Wolves 5-1 on Monday night.
Great result.
Great result to go back to the top of the table again. I've tried to work out what happens. I think they go into a playoff, but that was a good win. Saw Lancashire was on the score sheet again. But the main news,
Lineker Shearer.
yeah,
That's how you see it when you. I
yeah,
remember
Lineker
you got-
Shearer. He's like a complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the main news, go on.
The women have got to an FA Cup final.
Spurs are on their way to Wembley.
They didn't play that. I was there on Sunday. It was a great atmosphere.
not play it?
Went with the family. They didn't play it.
They might yet, though.
Yeah, well,
at the final.
they're going to Wembley. They beat Leicester 2-1. Not topsy-turvy game. What it was, we went 1-0 down, 1-2-1. Nervy game.
I wasn't there, and I was close. So normally when I'm not at one of these games, the app that I've got does the stats, and you can sort of see the flow of the game. But for some reason, it didn't have the stats. So at 1-0 down, and the game's pushing on, and I promised my daughter that if we would have gone had we not had a prior arrangement, but I promised her we'd go to Wembley, and I was sat there. Oh God, we're not going to get there. What was it like there? What was the game like?
They scored out of nothing, really. Leicester, first shot outside the box, really good hit. Spurs dominated the first half, but didn't really test the Leicester keeper. There came a point after about 60 minutes where you thought,
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Maybe 70. They just attempts just dried up. Then they got one, and Leicester got tired.
My goal, wasn't it?
Jess
Nas.
Yeah, deserved the goal.
I told you.
Gary, did you promise your daughter that you'd go to the final regardless?
No.
Oh, I see. You said no.
No, why? What did I say?
No, you said I promised her we'd go to the final.
No.
Only a
He's not going to Leicester, Chelsea, or Leicester, Man United.
I mean, I can't stand Leicester. We know this.
So look, they deserve to win.
They're good.
When Martha Thomas came on, made a bit of a difference, and she scored the winner.
Great header at the back.
Great header. He used the subs really wisely. The subs made a difference. We're going to talk about this a little bit, though, more in depth later. We've got Jen Schillaci, former Tottenham captain, legend, over 200 appearances.
Tottenham royalty.
Yeah, Tottenham royalty. Really is
Very
Tottenham royalty. So at the end of the show, we've got an interview with Jen. Do listen to that. She talks
was
about...
that? Did I hear you say we only bring you the best guests on An Echo of Glory?
We do.
We do. Just saying. Gary, where were you on Sunday, and why couldn't you? What was this prior engagement?
It was my mum's 70th, and we were having a bit of a garden party, luncheon type thing. So it's not something I could easily.
Did you say luncheon?
Luncheon. Garden party, no.
There was food, Johnny. Don't get excited.
No, but luncheon. I haven't.
What kind of food?
I don't know. There was barbecue beef brisket, some chicken thighs, and some salmon.
Were you in charge at the barbecue? Were you at the queue?
No, I was not in charge of it. It was catered. It was very nice.
Catered,
very,
not.
very nice. Yeah.
My goodness.
Right. Done all that.
Smoked salmon?
We've done all the good news.
Yeah, smoked salmon.
We've done the good news.
Listen, duck pancakes.
Right, enough.
You could have brought us
We've got to
some
do it.
leftovers.
We've got to do it.
Can we just carry on chatting about anything else?
We've done the karting. We've done the under 21s
We've procrastinated. We've tried to put it off. Come on,
my
let's do
meeting's
it.
just finished.
Saturday morning, Newcastle away. Newcastle 4, Tottenham Hotspur 0. I'm going to start at the very, very beginning with the team lineup. I'm not going to read it out, but
essentially, it was the midfield is the area of
we've talked
where there could be some flexibility.
We've talked so many times about Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and one thing I don't like is after the Lord Mayor show when you say, "Oh, he should have done this. He should have started. If we'd done this." After Forest, when Bentancur and Højbjerg came on, we sat here and I sat in the ground with people and we talked about it, not just on here with friends, and we read it on social media. I think Højbjerg and Bentancur have played their way in. We don't know what Ange is thinking. We don't know what goes on in training. For me, I was very, very surprised he didn't start with Højbjerg and Bentancur.
I wasn't that surprised that he didn't start with Højbjerg and Bentancur, and I'm not just saying it. I just thought that the performance that Højbjerg put in against Forest was a very good substitute performance, and it felt like I wouldn't have been surprised if he started, but I wasn't that surprised that he didn't start, because obviously that's how Ange has seen it. Football is about the squad and the players you can bring on, and maybe he obviously sees Højbjerg, and we've said this lots. Højbjerg isn't your typical Ange player, Ange 6, Ange midfielder. So I don't think Ange is now going to... We can't really necessarily be that surprised that he's going to suddenly change his mind on that. And he obviously sees him as a very good last 20-minute, last maybe second half, if the full half of the second half, if it's not going so well.
Wow.
And I think maybe he feels that Bissouma, because you're suggesting that he should have played instead of Bissouma, right?
Correct.
He obviously, Bissouma's his guy in that position, and he sees... We've seen it a lot with Pep Guardiola, you know, just because Phil Foden scored a hat-trick and then he was on the bench.
Well, he's got a luxury that he can do that.
Well...
At home to Luton or whoever.
I don't think you can necessarily... I don't think... All I'm saying is I don't think you should be... I don't think it's that surprising one way or another. No?
Okay. I was just surprised.
Yeah.
Gary, do you have anything to add on that?
I think it's easy to see why Højbjerg could have started. I get it. But I think, and I'm sure this will become a theme that we're going to talk about, Ange is looking longer term. And longer term, Højbjerg is not going to be at the club. It's kind of inevitable. I mean, I don't think. I think I'd be.
Discussed this last week. We're not sure that it is inevitable
No, I
anymore.
think it is. I
think
think I'd be more shocked if he's here next season than if he isn't. Right. In fact, I'd be very shocked.
I don't think that's a reason not to play him. It's all about now as well.
But Basuma and Bentancur will be here next season.
The way Basuma's playing, I wouldn't be so sure.
I don't think you can have wholesale changes to that extent. And at the point at which you're saying, right, Basuma's not going to be here next season, that's kind of wholesale changes. I think we accept that Basuma's going to be here next season, so it doesn't surprise me that Ange should stick by Basuma. And let's not forget that if Basuma can get close to the form that he had in those first 10 games, then nobody would be this wouldn't be a conversation. It wouldn't even be on the agenda. It's just the fact that Basuma hasn't recaptured that form for whatever reason, but then the team as a whole haven't recaptured that form for whatever reason. So in principle, I don't disagree with the decision, but I could have understood if Højbjerg had started.
All right. Okay. He didn't start. We started okay-ish. Werner missed a couple of chances. I thought the first one was actually harder than the second one. He made the first one really hard for himself by mistiming the run. He probably should have headed it, but he tried to volley it and it went all the way to Sunderland. And the second one was a cutback from maybe Maddison.
Didn't sort his feet, did he?
Couldn't sort his, was that the one that Son blocked, or was there another one?
No, I think
Son was offside. That was another one.
Yeah.
You're going to get that from Werner. I don't want to dwell on Werner. But after that,
it would have been. I mean, it would have been the first one. People say he should have headed it, and he should have headed it. But it would have been a very good header to actually put that in
I
the
agree.
goal.
I don't
Because
disagree.
the ball was coming far. I think the second one was worse.
Yeah.
He didn't.
he didn't get his feet right.
But then you're gonna, as you say, you're gonna get that.
It was so easy to cut through us, and I'm going to go straight into it. To be honest, I thought we were pathetic from about the 15-minute onwards, and we saw it at Fulham. We've seen it in a few games recently. We lost 6-1 there last April, and we've lost 4-0 there this April, and people have been like, oh, well, it wasn't as bad as last season. I think it was worse. The result may not be as bad. We lost by 4 instead of 5. Newcastle were flying last April, and they had everybody fit. They were on the top of their game. We had just sacked Conte. We had Stellini in charge. Lloris got subbed at halftime. The whole thing was a complete mess. So for that reason, I think this season was worse, and there's been a lot of angry people, including me, on Twitter, and I'm still angry.
So, I mean, was it worse? Yeah, I can see in the context of what you're saying, it was worse. I think there's no point debating what was a terrible result, and I think the thing that I'm most disappointed with was the attitude of the players just seemed wrong. It seemed off. It seemed.
I know what you're going to do here. I know what you're going to do.
What am I going to do?
It was the players. It wasn't the manager.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I know that. Look, I think everything has to have context and balance, right? And I know what you want to get into about Ange, and I think it's a worthwhile debate and a worthwhile topic. But I'm not in any way taking the heat off of Ange by saying that I don't think the players were on it. But we've already discussed the form of Basuma. We have to discuss the form of Maddison.
Yep, poor.
It was poor. Basuma, I thought, was Newcastle's most creative player in the first 10 minutes. We had control of the game, and twice he gave away the ball. And you can see what they wanted to do. They wanted to do that sort of low block, which was completely right with the team they had. They were devastating up front, at the huge amounts of pace, skill, guile, and all they wanted to do was just wait for us to make that mistake, and then, as you say, cut through us. And it's something we need to be aware of. It's something we need to be cleverer on. Because Fulham did it, Wolves did it with Neto to devastating effect, and I think teams are working out that actually, if they're sitting deep against us, we don't at this moment seem to have enough to get through or around them, and I've got my reasons for that as well. But I just thought the attitude of the players it just seemed poor from about that 15 minutes.
Let's hear from our
think
resident pet optimist.
Well, what they did really well was they got at us in the area that you can get at us. They put the balls, in this case, over Van der Ven's right shoulder in that channel where Porro has gone because he's up in midfield. And they did it, they got the ball away early. They either had Gordon running onto it or they had Isak running onto it. because they would win the ball back in their own half, and then they were firing long balls over into that channel where there's the space. And this has been the problem. If you are, everybody has said, if you're going to get at Tottenham, the place to get at us is over the top to the either side, because that's where the gap is. And it means you've got Van der Ven having to turn, Romero, and that's basically the space. And they did that really well. And I just think sometimes managers outdo each other.
Isn't it a worry that Howe, Silva, O'Neill have completely outdone Ange? And we talk about, it's great, we've had 40 games this season. He's had a lot of time at Hotspur away to sort this.
What I was going to say is, those are the 3 games. I mean,
it's not just those games, really. Those are the main ones that stand out.
The Fulham and the Newcastle games are bad. They're bad results. Very bad.
But I think they are the 3 games, because prior to the defeat against Wolves, and then the terrible defeats against Fulham and Newcastle, you could mitigate for anything else that had happened.
Brighton away was a bit of a funny one as well. But I mean,
Brighton away was awful. We did have a lot of players.
But also.
That's what I'm saying. Wolves,
you can
Fulham,
mitigate.
Newcastle, we've had more or less a full team, and you would have expected better performances.
Yeah. I had a look at this. We've lost 8 games. Villa have lost 8 games. Like, you're going to lose games at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's Howe, isn't it?
Yeah, but ultimately,
no, it's Emery in charge of Villa. Howe's at Newcastle.
Very good. We've won 18 games and we've lost 8. Like,
are you not worried about the 2 clean sheets in 25 games? Villa have kept 6 clean sheets in 10 away games.
And yet our goal difference is still only 3 worse than them, and we lost 4-0.
It's the eye test for me, Jake. I'm looking at Emery has gone to Arsenal and schooled Arteta. I don't feel we're doing any of. We're just playing.
Hang on, we went to Villa and schooled Emery.
Villa's at the moment.
Schooled Emery,
that seems like an outlier.
Of course,
for both teams.
And the shame of it is, after that performance, I said I felt it was a coming of age for the team.
Same.
But actually, what teams like Wolves and Fulham and Newcastle, all 3 of them have in common, was they did 2 things that I think are consistent. When we had a goal kick, I think all 3 of those teams put 3 men up and made it very, very difficult to play out. If and when we played out, they would just drop straight back in and defend deep, right? So, I think they're exposing there's a number of weaknesses and areas that need work on in the team. I think the number 9 is a huge,
that ties in, because there was a still of Spurs trying to play out from a Vicario goal kick. You can't go long.
You can't go long
because it comes straight back.
And so you've got 2 problems with Son at number 9, and even to an extent Richarlison. You've got 2 problems. One, you don't have the out ball from Vicario. A couple of times, they did push up. Fulham did it. Wolves did it very, very effectively. Made it very hard to play out, and there was no option to go long because there's no target man. But from an attacking point of view, the goal that we're trying to score so often at the moment is getting in behind the fullbacks and low and hard across the 6-yard box. Indeed, that's kind of where Werner's big chance came from on the volley, right? But that's, we're all saying that's the only goal. It's
pretty much the only goal we're scoring.
The only goal that we're scoring, and the reason for it is that we don't have a target man in the middle, where if you've got the ability from your fullback areas or your wide areas to be crossing from 20, 25 yards out, then suddenly teams are having to guess, and they're having to close down that cross, or you're crossing from the edge of the box, or you're getting in behind. It makes it a lot harder to defend.
Right, but on that, let's talk about Villa. Ollie Watkins has got 19 goals this season. None of them are penalties. Okay? So similar to us, they don't have a target man. He's not a target man. No. He's a player that plays very well on the counter.
He is an out-and-out number 9, though.
No, he's not. I'd have an out-and-out 9 is...
No, he's a number 9.
To be fair, I think Ollie Watkins holds the ball up with back to goal much better. I'm not saying he's a target man, but he does hold the ball up. And I think if you're getting it in... So, for example, when you're talking about Vicario, it's not necessarily about the man winning the flick, the number 9 winning the flick. It is about getting it into
I'm not saying a flick, it's holding it up.
And the problem that I've got with Son up front... And actually, I think this is how Forest scored, and we conceded another goal from it, actually, recently. It goes into him, and with his back to goal, even on the edge of their own box, the opposition box, he loses it so
He did it on for the first goal, I think it was.
Yeah, and against Forest, certainly, and I was calling for a foul against Forest because it looked like the sort of thing that could be a foul, but then you watch it back on the replay, you're like,
too weak.
Just needs to be stronger. And it happened against Newcastle. He's got it back to goal on the edge of their box. They nick it off him. He doesn't protect the ball well enough.
He doesn't.
Ollie Watkins isn't a target man in the traditional sense.
Strong.
But he knows how to use his body. He knows how to get in the way of the ball. He knows how to hold it up. And I've seen him do it very, very well. And that is the difference. If you've got somebody where you can get it into their feet or get it into their chest and they will protect that ball and win you that free kick.
Look.
If it's coming out from defence or whatever it is, very different.
Are you saying that we're missing Richarlison?
No, because I don't think he holds
I
it
don't
up
think,
great
I don't
either.
think
His hold-up
Richarlison's
play
answer
is-
it's
when,
better.
When,
It's
when
better.
your argument with both of your number 9s is, are they a better winger or a number 9? You know that they ain't a number 9.
I don't think there's
right?
that argument with Richarlison, though.
Well, I don't know. Like Richarlison,
I think his hold-up play is better,
but
and he's much
Richarlison
better.
for Everton was better off the wing than he is as a
Yeah,
number
but that's
9.
Everton. But I actually think that Ange, it felt like Ange unlocked him a little bit. We were getting balls into the box, and he was finishing them off. And his hold-up play is better than Son's.
But I think
it's not Kane's level, but it's better.
Yeah.
And he is a much more of an aerial
But I think
threat.
what we're citing here, however you look at it, is a weakness in the team is undoubtedly the number 9, and it's inhibiting how we attack, how we get out from defence, and generally how we play. If you think about Ange having 2 8s in the team, what do you want? You really want a 9 who can actually hold the ball up and knock it off to players running beyond, right?
Well, the latest link is Dom Solanke.
Fine, I'd take that.
Yeah.
What's his hold-up play like?
Good.
Good,
It's
very
strong.
good.
I know his finishing's good.
He presses well. He's a big, strong lad. He holds it up well, links the play. I actually think if I had the choice between a Dom Solanke or an Ivan Toney, putting character, personality, all of that, which we don't know enough about, that's for the guys inside the game, I'd rather Ivan Toney. I think he's an exceptional footballer.
He's better footballer than Solanke.
Oh, yeah.
But if I'm talking about Dom Solanke versus somebody coming in from Europe who isn't proven in the Premier League, I think I'd rather Dom Solanke. A lot of people go, it's not a sexy signing. I don't think it needs to
You'll
be.
get grief because we signed him from Bournemouth for 32 when we could have signed insert foreign player.
Dom
here for
Solanke will be
50.
more than 32. He's got a contract till like 2027. He's going to be 60 minimum.
Right.
I can't see us getting
Get
cheaper
Levy on the
than
phone.
that.
I don't wanna see
Get
about
Daniel
that.
on the
Get
phone.
Daniel
But
on
I
the
think
phone.
that is the kind of signing that we should be looking at.
Well,
I
he's
think,
English as well, which is key for us. We need
I think
homegrown players.
whether it's him, whether it's Tony, I would like to see a proven Premier League player, number 9, who can hold the ball up, who can press, who can link the play,
But
who can score goals.
Ange has never played with one. So my problem at the moment is, what are our redeeming features? The goal that you've talked about, cross it into the back post, hope Johnson and Werner tap it in. And the other redeeming feature we have is Mickey van der Ven chasing a centre forward, which is a terrible redeeming feature
That
for any
went
football
well.
club. It's a terrible thing. We've got a good defence. No, we've got good defenders, but no defence. At the moment where I see it, if Ange had Baresi and Costa Curta as his 2 centre halves, he'd be making them play on the halfway line. I'm going to say it.
Well, that wouldn't work.
I'm saying it. And I
That's
said
why,
it.
but that's why we signed Van der Ven.
It's not sustainable. We've had 2 brilliant guests on this show. Listen back if you haven't already. Thomas Broich and James Holland, who both played under Ange. And they both sat there and went on about his plan A, and they used it as a positive. For me, at the moment, I'm seeing it as a negative because he doesn't even have plan A and a half. I've said it
But
till
I
I'm
don't
blue in the
understand-
face.
And yet,
Exactly.
and yet,
Go
what?
on. Go on,
well,
Jake.
if I'd said to you this time last season, we're going to be 5th, 3 points off 4th.
That could be an indictment for the rest of the Premier
No,
League.
but it's not though, is it? It's not. We're ahead of. Okay. Newcastle haven't had the season that they had. Manchester United haven't had the
right. So
season.
there's 2 teams.
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Yeah, but and last season it was us. Like teams, the top 6 is never just going to be the top 6 anymore,
course.
especially because of the likes of West Ham, Brighton, Villa are much. The levels have been
Yeah,
raised.
I get that.
And we were never going to be competing with City and Liverpool and Arsenal. So we're in the
Not
mix
this
for
season.
4th or 5th. I've
Agree.
said this loads. I had us down to finish 5th this season. I didn't see us breaking into. I thought we'd finish behind United. I thought it would be the top 3 in United, and I thought a good season for us would be to finish 5th.
Are you saying that there's no critic? We can't
No,
lose 4-0 at Newcastle and not
Of course
be
we
buggered
can't
off
lose 4-0
by
at
it?
Newcastle. But what's unfortunate, and I say this to people all the time, and I'm going to use another club as an example.
I thought you were going to go with Emma Hayes Chelsea and do some poem.
No, I'm going to say that ultimately, across the 38 game season, people only remember the last game or the last few weeks.
Correct.
And if we finish 5th, but our last 10 games, you swap the first 10
Yeah.
games and put them at the end of the season, we
Yeah.
would finish the season on a high, wouldn't we? Because
Yep.
we'd have won 8 and 10 or whatever, and we would be like, wow, what an end to the season.
Correct.
But we may well end up finishing 5th anyway, as we,
Probably will finish.
we
fifth.
probably will. But the season has ended. The season hasn't ended quite as we wanted. So maybe the feeling might be a bit more flat amongst supporters. But the beginning of the season, we would have been happy with 5th.
But also,
You have to remember that.
agree. 100% agree.
No,
I
but
completely agree.
As an
but-
overall look at the season, you'd have been happy with 5th, right? After last season.
But I'm looking at the way we're playing.
Yeah,
and I
but
don't.
you can't look at it from a game-to-game basis. You have to look at it as a season over 38 games. Where are we now compared to this time last season.
I don't-
All I'm saying is I don't think you should. I'm trying to help you here, Jonny. I don't think
Don't
you
need
should.
your help,
I don't think
mate.
you should
But
look
you
at
do.
it as a one game to game basis.
Yeah,
I'm not. I've been.
But listen, I think
No,
also
but-
as well,
but-
you're sat there saying, what's our redeeming feature, right? It's low crosses into the box and then Mickey van der Ven chasing back.
Correct.
It's not. Our redeeming feature is the identity that we're trying to play to, the philosophy that we're trying to adhere to. That is the redeeming feature. That is the feature. That's the feature that we all got on board
the
with and we
moment-
all demanded and we all wanted.
Okay, Gary. For me, at the moment, take Villa aside because I think it's a bit of an outlier. It was a great performance. It was a bit of an outlier. It's dodgy away performances and second half FC at home.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine,
but
this
also-
is a progression. It is an evolution, right? It has to be, and I think
And he has to evolve too.
fine. Listen, there are things that I would agree with, okay? Because I'm not going to sit here saying like Ange is beyond criticism. He's not. I don't like zonal marking. I think it's
Oh,
a
the
terrible
set piece stuff is
I think it's a
abysmal.
terrible way of marking, and I think it is a lazy setup from a coaching point of view. Because if an opposition team knows that you're marking zonally, it is possible to set up your set pieces accordingly. So, for example, the amount of times we saw Dan Burn on Johnson. I mean, come on now, right? Honestly. Now, to me, that is lazy coaching because that is to say, we're setting up zonally, guys, you know what you're doing, do your jobs, rather than working in the week, going, right, man to man, Mickey, actually, you're going to have to take Dan Burn, to be fair, right? You're
We
the big
said that
lad.
the
in
biggest
team.
signing we
Yeah.
could make in the summer is probably a set piece coach.
Right, so this sort of stuff, but it does tie in. I'm interested to see the progression of Ange over the coming season or 2 seasons or however long it takes, because is he setting up zonal marking at the moment so that he hasn't got to spend the time on the training pitch during the week going through that level of detail on the tactic? Quite possibly, and he said as much this week in the sense of right now, I'm focused on getting the team so ingrained with how I want to play that we are not focusing on the small details.
Or the
So
opposition,
He has,
he's-
or the
apparently
opposition.
he's-
So he has acknowledged it and he has said it. And you
Could he have
to-
told us that before we started this season?
No, he did. He said straight up, the first thing I want to do is getting them playing the way I want it, getting them ingrained. And I think that is still a work in progress. And I think you have to, you have to trust that process, right? I'm going to go there with it, okay?
Yeah.
There's going to be a theme. We're going to discuss that, at other points. But you've got to trust that process. And either, you've got a choice. Either trust that process and get on board with it. Criticise, yes, but trust that process and get on board with it. Or say this guy hasn't got it. Let's get rid of him and start again.
Also,
I don't want to get rid of
don't-
But sorry to interrupt. And I'm going to interrupt.
Go on.
And I'm going to apologise about it. I don't want him gone. This is another misnomer. People, not just me, who have this problem. You want him out. No, I don't. I don't want him out. I want him. This is the big boy leagues now. And I think he needs to adapt. And all these things you say, I totally agree with. And if next season we're December, January, and we're keeping clean sheets and we're up there in the table and it's different, you can have a go at me and go, I told you. No, people can do that.
Where in the table though?
Well, but why have
Where
we
is
hired?
up-
But why have we hired him? Just to
Well-
finish 4th to 7th again? No, it has to be to make a sustainable go at the top 4 and beyond. At the moment, I don't think we can do that the way we're playing. If we're doing a lot better and we finish second, first, third, you can all go, ha, you were wrong. And I will say, probably, I think. Not say I was right. I think Ange has adapted, which is all I'm asking for. If he carries on like this next season, even with a better 6 or a better 9, he's still going to ask his centre halves to stand on the halfway line and score goals from the wings.
No. But I disagree. I think when you have a better 6, a natural 6, because I don't think Basuma is a natural
Not
6.
at
I think
all.
he's a fabulously natural footballer. I don't think he's a natural 6. I think if you've got a natural 6 in there that understands when to drop into the centre backs and let them split a bit wider, thereby covering the fullbacks,
Yep.
or a natural 6 that understands, actually, I'm not going to drop in, I can go and win that ball there, right, higher up the pitch in the midfield area. I think it makes a hell of a difference.
So if you know Basuma can't do that, why are we doing it? If he says in his head, right, this isn't my guy for next season, I'm going to get in
because
this person.
because who have we got to do it?
So,
Højbjerg.
so change it up. I can't do this right now.
But then you've wasted a season. The rest of the team have to learn how to play
Yeah,
the way that he
well.
wants them to play.
And that's
You
why he
can't-
doesn't
Also,
care about
do-
4th or
do
5th.
you- But do you
Which
think
is
we're
I-
lucky
which
to
I
be
get.
5th then?
No, I think we've played some excellent stuff, and I skipped to the stadium, and I still like watching us, apart from some of the recent away games. And I knew against Forest we would turn it round because of the way we can play.
But yeah, so you get that, but then your general feeling is not one of understanding not understanding as in you don't understand, but you're not understanding to the way the sort of, not his methods, but the process, the fact that it isn't just going to happen in one season. Everybody wanted a new manager this time last year. Entertain me. I don't just want to win. I don't want to win 1-0. I don't want to win 2-1. I want to be entertained. And we've been entertained this season. So when we get to the end of the season, this isn't a season where you go, well, that was, school report stuff. I'm giving us B+, A- kind of thing.
It's the eye test
because
for
we've
me.
been entertained, though.
When he came in,
That was what everybody wanted first up, though.
I will also say,
So we can't now complain if we've been entertaining this season. The results, people said, I don't care about the results. That's what people were saying. I just want to be entertained.
Correct.
And I was saying, be careful what
actually
you
the
wish for,
results have been
because
good.
I like winning. I like winning. And people say, well, I don't want to win 1-0. I want boring football. I want to be entertained. And we've been entertained this year. You can't say we haven't.
he came in quite well marketed from Celtic fans. English is his first language.
Premier
We've
League's
talked
difficult.
about how that helps. I just don't think this style works. And you can talk about getting in new players,
Jonny.
a 6, a 9.
Jonny.
No, it's not just. Do you know something? It's not just a style. It's just Plan A. If we're just going to have Plan A, and people will say, and I've seen it on social media, well, Pep's not got Plan B. Pep's playing 4 centre halves across the back 4.
Yeah, but
he's
he's
constantly evolving.
Yes, he's evolved
I
across
did
the
some
years. Hold on.
research.
Sorry, the
Go
other
on.
thing is you're comparing us to, or looking at us in terms of where you want us to finish. Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool are much further down their development as their managers have been there much longer.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool's going to be an interesting one this summer. Let's see how they get on next year.
Very
I
difficult.
fancy us to finish ahead of Liverpool next
Very
season.
difficult.
Very difficult. First season, new coach, after the Lord Mayor's show, all that kind of thing. I think we can't judge. We can only look at Ange. I think we can only judge.
I think he's been there long enough. Been here 10 months now. Had a lot of time on Hotspur Way.
Yeah,
Right,
but I
go
think
on.
you
Okay.
judge him after 2 or 3 years. How's it been the last 2 or 3 years?
Would you agree that when Guardiola took over City, they were a much more advanced team than we are right now? Let's face it, they'd won the Premier
16,
League.
17 it was, wasn't it?
Yep, they'd won the Premier League. So he was appointed City manager on the 1st of February 2016. He didn't
Yeah.
start in the job
Yeah.
until the summer.
Yeah.
But he had half a season to assess the team
Yeah.
and look at them. So I'm going to talk about his first full
Yeah,
season.
they struggled. They
I'm going
wasn't,
to
it
talk about his
wasn't
first
great.
full season. Lost 4-0 away at Everton. Lost 2-0 to us. Lost 4-0 to Barcelona. Lost 3-1 at home to Chelsea. Lost 4-2 away to Leicester. Went out the Champions League to Monaco. That was Pep Guardiola's first season. The first season in English football, the only season he hasn't won a trophy. That summer they went out and bought Edison and Walker. Klopp at Liverpool. I know you like to say, you don't want to say, I don't want to do this because but Klopp took over
October
Liverpool,
2015.
October 2015. So I'm not even going to talk about the first 6 months. I'm going to talk about the first full season. First full season, 2016-17, lost 2-0 away to Burnley, lost 4-3 away to Bournemouth, 3-2 away to Swansea, out the FA Cup to Wolves, 2-0 away to Hull, 3-1 away to Leicester, 2-1 at home to Palace. Arteta appointed December 2019. So again, I'm not going to talk about 2019-2020. I'm going to talk about his results 2020-21. 1-0 home to Leicester, lost. 3-0 away to Villa. 2-1 at home to Wolves. 2-0 away to us. 1-0 at home to Burnley. Drew 1-1 at home to Southampton. Lost 2-1 away to Everton. Knocked out the cup by Southampton. They lost 2-1 away to Wolves, then 1-0 away at home to Villa the next week. 3-0 at home to Liverpool and 1-0 at home to Everton.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're telling me.
And these managers all had more of a run-in to their jobs without having lost a £100 million striker.
I don't.
So it is a process. And yes, they all evolved in the jobs. And I get what you're saying. He has to evolve. I agree, and I think he will. We have to take the good with the bad at the moment. It is going to be a process. We're going to have days like this. I think he's finding out about the character of his players. I think he's finding out about the Premier League. And we can feel a bit bruised and battered and what have you. But, ultimately, I see it like this. The recruitment of the club, not the recruitment of the club, the recruitment within the club
Yeah.
Club signing.
has been exceptional the last 18, 24 months. I think for the most part, it's been absolutely exceptional.
There's been more hits than misses,
the
for
right,
sure.
the right philosophies, the right profiles of players, the right caliber and quality of players. I think Ange was brought in to create a DNA of the club, and he is doing that. Okay, I think everything going forward is on the whole extremely positive. We have to, and even next season there are going to be disappointments.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we see Ange evolving, and I think that's the key.
That's the key. That's
I
all
think
I've
that,
said.
I think that is the key.
I agree with everything you've said.
As long as we see Ange evolving.
But having listened to Broik in Holland,
Yeah, but I think he's evolved. What they have actually said, and what I think you're missing is what they did say is yes, he does evolve. He evolved from managing the Socceroos, and he changed. I think it was Broicho actually said he started changing the way he played with fullbacks. I'm sure he said that at one point. He does evolve. He does learn things. He does look at things. And I think that will happen at Tottenham as well. I think he's learning about the Premier League, and I think it is an evolution. So we're a bit battered and bruised, but ultimately, there's no reason to not feel extremely optimistic that the guy can get us
Also,
there.
I love hearing him say about the winning and all this kind of thing. I mean, this might be me being the only one that thinks this. Does anyone think we're actually going to win the league at some point under Ange? I personally not under Ange.
Why not?
Because
isn't that where we should be aiming?
But personally, I just think that the way, I mean, maybe when Guardiola leaves, things will change. Right now, are we going to beat a Pep Guardiola coach Manchester?
Arsenal have nearly done it.
Well, they haven't.
Yeah, but they haven't. Have they?
They've really
Liverpool
pushed them.
have done it once in 6 years. It's difficult.
No, don't just turn on the whole Arsenal. Oh, aren't they bottlers?
No,
they've
not
pushed
bottlers.
City all the way.
They have, but they
twice.
haven't. But and
5
maybe
years,
they,
5 years into 5
So the
years
bigger question is, are we going to
hang
push
on,
City all the way?
5 years into
Guardiola's
Arteta's
days?
plan, and I think he spent about £1 billion. I think it's spent about 800
no,
million pounds.
my point is,
I don't care about net spend and how much has gone out. Right, he has spent around 800 million to get to the point of pushing City, put the pressure on. People took the piss out of us for putting the pressure on. Now you're going, well, Arsenal putting the pressure on. That takes credit.
No,
People took the piss out of us for putting the pressure on. He has spent 800 million to put the pressure on City. Like, the point is a good one, right? It is a very good one. It is hard. That's not to say that we shouldn't aspire and we shouldn't try and we're not going to get there. But, I actually see it as Ange has got next year and even the season after, at which point there's a very good chance that Arteta will have gone. Klopp definitely will have gone. Guardiola will have gone. Let's build towards that. Let's build towards that and have a longer term view. The guy's here for 4 years, right? I'm not saying we've got to wait to see the fruits of it to them. We should see progression all the time. The hard thing at the moment is it feels like the performances have gone backwards, and I get that.
That's what I'm saying. That's if you look at a snapshot. But from this season to last season, if you look at the 30, when you look
night
back
and day,
you can only really look at it people like to do calendar years and all that. You look at it season by season. And this season will have been a better season than last season.
Correct. Well, it already is.
Unquestionably.
Right. So I think more importantly, and it's easy to say, kick it down the road. What's going to happen next season?
Don't know.
How are we going to? That's when you really question the guy, because if this same manager doesn't improve us and we aren't a better team next season than we were, then you look at it and go, we're not getting any better.
Correct. 100%. But the question for you is this. Do you honestly think that Ange is a guy that is going to be sat there next season thinking to himself in this summer, yeah, mate, I don't care if we concede 65 goals as long as we score 90. Do you reckon that he's that guy?
Well, if you've got a goal difference of plus 25, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, but do you reckon he's saying that? Do you reckon he's sat there going, I don't care if we concede 65 goals? I don't think he is. Not one bit. Not one bit.
You asked me the question. My answer is, I don't know. And I can only base it on the two guests that we've had. And I just think he's going to play the same way with different personnel.
Well, he didn't say he's happy to concede.
No, but this is the toughest league he's ever been in.
Yeah.
Where pretty much all the teams, bar a couple, are proper good teams. And this is just a different level for him. All I'm saying is, I've seen it. I've been saying this since December. I've seen cracks. And we can talk about new players that are coming in. Who knows if they're going to work, by the way? You don't know bringing Solanke.
So you're now on
bounce off him.
Are you now
for 38
saying
games.
what the Arsenal fans were saying when he signed? Oh, he's only coached in Japan and he coached in
I've said that,
Scotland.
By the way, I've said that since day one. This is his biggest test by absolute miles.
Well, of course it is, but that doesn't mean that he can't. What about Roberto De Zerbi? He came in.
I think he's having the same problems because I was a Brighton fan at work that I speak to a lot. They're having same issues with De Zerbi, that it came in, fanfare, it was great. Look at them now. They can't defend. They're all over the place at times. Not the same team. I mean, he wants out anyway, so I don't think that's helped. Similar.
Yeah,
so
but they're still 10th, having had Europe. With that squad and those players, I mean...
And if you asked a Brighton fan if they'd take it because they're Brighton, of course they would. But you dive down into the minutiae of their performances, not been great. And ours haven't been great for a while. I'm just saying... I think he has to adapt. We'll park it there because we'll go around in circles. I think we're not going to park it. We're going to get a different opinion. rather than me.
The
just
real
waffling.
opinion.
Yeah, a real opinion. Someone talking some sense on this pod.
Before we do that, I noticed on your notes, I've just seen here, if anyone mentions Klopp or Arteta comparison, they're going to get a slap.
I'm going to slap you off air.
So, all right, so that's happening, is it? Yeah,
that is happening.
Okay,
I did give you a lift, but I'm going to give you a slap and send you home on the train. With regard that Arteta Klopp comparison, I don't like because your stats are great and I get it and it makes sense and I can see what you're saying.
Stats man says your stats are great. Eh?
Yeah, can you come in and do Saturdays?
Clip that up.
It don't guarantee. I know you're not saying it's a guarantee.
I'm not saying it's a guarantee.
People are using it as a guarantee. Oh, but because they
no, it's not a guarantee.
It's just not.
It's not a guarantee. It's no guarantee. I don't think anybody's saying that. I think the point is it is an evolution and it is a process. And you either get on board with that process or you don't. Okay. And I think the point that Jake makes is better and it's the logical one. If next season we're playing better and a lot of these mistakes we're not seeing, then there's been evolution and progress. If next season we're getting humped 4-0 away to a reserve Newcastle team because they're slicing through us because we've given the ball away, trying to carve through a 10-man defence again, then yeah, you're going to ask questions. But right now, I'll take the hurt and pain, but I'm also looking forwards.
I was wrong once, I'll be wrong again. I can't quite remember when it was, but...
As long as it's not stats, right?
Of course not. All right. Should we have some sense to the proceedings?
Yes.
Darren Lewis, you heard of him?
I heard of him.
Should we talk to him?
Well, get him on.
Oh, I can. We can. Let's do it. Darren Lewis, everybody. Delighted to be joined by writer and broadcaster Darren Lewis. Darren, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, no problem. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So it's great to get a neutral perspective because Spurs getting hammered 4-0 at Newcastle has caused a bit of a stir on social media, as it is likely to. So what were your thoughts on the game?
I was fascinated by the game, really, because there was this commitment to attacking football at Spurs, which, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with. I like the fact that the club has an attacking identity. I love the fact that the manager is sticking to that. I've got so many Spurs friends who are Spurs fans who say that even in the days when you guys were winning under Conte, they were still very disillusioned with the style of play. So I don't have any issue with that. And I think when you are winning, when you're doing well, you can't turn tail when things are going badly. You know, if you have a commitment to an identity, which has been the Tottenham way for a long time, then I just find it very hard to criticise just because results aren't going well. Now, to be fair, it's now 1 win in your last 7 away from home, and that ain't great at this point in time, given the tough games that you've got coming up. And I suppose the question really, you're asking me, but the question is for you guys as Spurs fans or people with sympathies. Would you now want him to tighten up, or do you still want that front foot football that's got you into this position in the first place? Yeah,
that's my thing. It's been my thing for a while, Darren. And so I just think it's not sustainable to keep 2 clean sheets in 23, 24 games. Yes, I would like him to tighten up. And I totally agree with what you're saying about the principles. And we've had 2 guests on here who've played under Ange. And they've all talked about his principles. It's all plan A, which they've used as a positive. He's got his plan A and he sticks to it. But for me, in the Premier League, I think you have to have at least plan A and a half.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I remember a few seasons ago when Spurs were so shocking defensively that I remember you lost to Wolves at home and you lost to Southampton at home. And I remember writing at the time when I did my match report, if Spurs are going to get into the Champions League, they're going to have to shoot their way in because they simply can't defend. And I think at the time, your defense was a lot worse than this. It was the old days of that style defense that's now being dismantled. And this is not a bad defense, but the problem is, and it's not a problem. I'm not going to call it a problem. The thing is, because Ange is committed to playing a certain way, and I like it, and it's great when you're scoring goals and winning games and flying up the table. And nobody is talking about Harry Kane like they were at the start of the season. So I'm not going to sit here and start criticising because the results haven't gone your way. When you're winning, when you're growing as a team, that's going to happen. You know, that you are going to get difficult results that are hard to take, but that's part of the evolution of the team. Set against that, teams that win things have solid defenses. Arsenal are where they are without bringing in a gunman, if you like, a striker, because they've got such a fantastic defense. They've conceded, 6 goals since the turn of the year.
Just so you know,
So-
you've used your allocation of positive Arsenal comments. You went out and won, and that's it.
But Darren, I'm interested.
I do apologise for committing the heresy. I do apologise. Please don't switch off.
But Darren, I'm interested in something that you picked up on there about mentioning Harry Kane, because I was going to ask you from a neutral perspective, what did you see at the beginning of the season, on the eve of the season for Tottenham Hotspur with Harry Kane leaving? What did you see as being what we should hope and expect for this season versus perhaps where we are now?
Well, I'm on record as saying that I felt that the sale of Harry Kane was a good thing. And a lot of people thought I was crazy, but I think there was a lot of lazy thinking in football. And we ascribe way too much power to individual players to be able and we suggest that clubs can't move on if this player is sold. We saw it with Berbatov, we saw it with Kane, we saw it with
Carrick,
Bale,
Modric.
with Carrick. Spurs will survive. Spurs has survived the loss of big players before. Look at West Ham. Actually, they're a better team for having sold Declan Rice. As good as he is, West Ham have sold him, and they're still in the mix for a European place, and they're into the latter stages of another European competition. And I just think that when Kane was at the club, he was exceptional, but too many players were hiding behind his goals. And now that he's gone, players are taking responsibility. They're stepping up. They're scoring goals. You're flying up the table. I think it's only 2 games where you failed to score something like 45. So the run is good. You're scoring goals. You've got no right to be in the mix for a Champions League place, but you are. And I hope it ends this talk that the club is enthralled to any one player. Clubs will always be bigger than the talent. It doesn't matter than an individual talent. And I think as far as Spurs are concerned, you know how Twitter goes, they'll say Darren Lewis says that, that they were right to sell Harry Kane or whatever. What I mean is, for the progress of the team, and at the point that Harry Kane found himself where he was like, I want to move on, I want to win things, this side isn't yet ready, this club isn't ready to win things just yet, I need to go on. Now, the fact that he hasn't won anything at Bayern is immaterial. Correct. The fact is that you were going to get good money, you could reinvest it in the side, reinvigorate the side, and have what you have now, which is some real jeopardy going into the end of the season, rather than an end of the campaign where you've got nothing to play for. And wouldn't you rather be frustrated and a little bit concerned now about what's going to happen, rather than shrugging your shoulders in mid-table, just traipsing around and treading water?
Absolutely correct.
Darren, I've seen you at a couple of the Ange press conferences that I've been to, and I've also heard you say that he's a great communicator. How have you found him then over the course? Is that would be your overriding kind of comment then, would it, having been to a couple of his press conferences over the season?
Yeah, it would, because there's 2 things that strike me about Postecoglou which make me seem as a good fit, that I see him being a good fit for Spurs with. The first thing is that he knows how it feels for everyone to doubt him and not to rate him. When he came into English football, British football, people turned their nose up at him, even when he went to Celtic, and people say, who is this guy? And he's always had to prove himself and earn the respect that he's managed to get in the game. And he's done the same at Spurs. The expectations were so low, A, because of who he was, and B, because of the fact that they sold Harry Kane. My phone's ringing.
Listen, it's why I've got you on. You're such a popular guy. We're so delighted to have you.
Well, it's actually the agent of Richarlison.
Yeah, we'll listen.
Get him on.
Sorry. But no, he is just somebody who's very straight up. He's very much like, Spurs fans that I've come into contact with, that I've known for many years. He's not a pessimist. He believes in himself, and he believes in the ability of the team. Listening to him talk, I loved hearing, for example, the way he grew up, wanting always to play attacking football, admiring flying fullbacks going up the pitch, and wanting to build a team that would make his dad proud. feeling that he's nowhere near it yet. But when, as he sees it, Spurs become his team with his players and the way that he wants to play, they're going to be a real superpower in the Premier League. And actually, being at press conferences and listening to him talk, I seriously do think that maybe it might be a year's time, 18 months' time, Spurs are going to be a serious player in the Premier League.
So to summarise and just to wrap up, because this is going to be a theme on this pod, I feel, should Spurs fans now, because we mercilessly took the mick out of trust the process, but should Spurs fans be trusting the process at this point?
100%. 100%. Not only do I say this to friends, we sometimes argue about it as well. But look, a lot of people laugh at that phrase, trust the process. But Arsenal are in a title race because of a process. Exactly. And what was that process? To get the older players out, the ones who felt that they were doing Arsenal a favour by being there, the ones who were on big wages but weren't earning or justifying those wages, the ones who weren't living up to the hype. Arteta got them all out, and he worked hand in glove with Edu to bring in younger players, talented players, consistent players. He built from the back. And okay, you guys are building from the front, so you've got two very different philosophies. But it was a process to get his team, and this is his team right now. And honestly, so often in Spurs, so often in football, fans want things quickly because they see everything happening and they think it's getting away from them. But you guys yourselves, you've seen, when Pochettino came in, the biggest thing he did was convince a fan base that you don't have to spend big to build a good team. £11.2 million for Alderweireld, and he was the leader that your defence needed. Dele Alli was £5 million. Some of your best players in that team cost a relative pittance. But it's good recruitment, good scouting, opening up the pathway to the young players to get into the first team, getting all the teams playing the same way so that when you are in the first team, you do know what's expected of you, changing the mentality, demanding standards and that you don't fall below them. That's what has got you to where you are. And there will be moments where you don't score, where you do make mistakes, where things don't go your way, but that's just that's the way of progress. But I think this Spurs team, if you continue to get behind him, trust in what he's doing, I don't see any reason not to. I don't know, maybe you might disagree, but I don't see any reason to lose that trust based on a few poor results. A mate of mine said to me the other day, the fact is he's playing down getting top four because he wants to take the pressure off the team. This team hasn't achieved a top four place before. So, he wants to maybe look to the longer term, but let's not kid ourselves. Once you had a chance of getting that top four, people upstairs will have wanted top four.
I think 100%.
And fans will want top four.
You're definitely
and even if you exactly, even if he might say, well, I'm looking to improve this side in a different way. Top four can sometimes be the difference between a top young talent joining the club or going elsewhere for the money. Okay, you might argue if he's going somewhere else for the money, then you don't want him anyway. But the way of the world is that you got to pay if you want good talent. And hopefully you guys are able to acquire it.
I think everything that you've said there is absolutely spot on. You're speaking my language in the sense of trusting Ange, trusting the process, getting behind him, sticking with him. There are maybe one or two doubting Debbies in the studio that hopefully your words might have helped turn around a little bit. But I 100% agree.
I always hang on Darren's word. Genuinely, I think he talks so much sense. So I said to him, I need someone to come on here and talk sense. And you have done that as always. Just before we let you go, Darren, and before that phone rings again, you've talked about the longer process. I get that totally, but I'm going to ask you short term. Forget fifth and the coefficient. Who's going to finish in the top four in your opinion, Spurs or Villa? And you can say if you think it's Villa.
Do you know, the funny thing was I was on a show on Sunday and I said Spurs, right? But I'll be straight with you. Villa put on the performance of the season so far at the Emirates a few hours later. And that, I think, has changed my mind. The discipline, the attention to detail, the attacking prowess. I mean, everything about that performance said to me, they mean business. And I think the fact that you've got tough away games to come now, it might be, listen, you might take points off Arsenal because you guys always draw with each other and they're coming to your place as well, aren't they? So
Yeah.
you might get a little bit of satisfaction derailing the
A
season.
lot of satisfaction.
Top four and preventing Arsenal is our season now.
Really?
I'll take anything just to prevent them winning the title.
Exactly. But I think I do know, I am concerned for you guys because Villa looks seriously good.
Yeah.
And I think the pendulum now swung towards that.
Yeah,
Darren, brilliant. Really appreciate you coming on. We'll let you go.
Pleasure.
Hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Thank
John.
you.
Cheers, Jake. Cheers, guys.
All right. As we said, some much needed sense to proceedings.
Thank you, Darren.
But I said it earlier. He talked about things like defending. I think we've got good defenders, but no defence. But Darren was very much echoing what you have said.
Yeah, because he talks sense.
Doesn't mean he's going to be right though.
No, but he talks
To be
sense.
fair, he was pretty balanced on it. I mean, he said that, basically that we need to. That overall, he's not going to say. And actually, a lot of people would say, "Oh, tabloid journalists really kind of," but that's not his style at all. He really very measured, very considered.
Yeah, but I think as well, he's very much got his ear to the ground on the feeling around London clubs. And as much as he sees with his own eyes and he goes to Ange press conferences and he understands football deeply, he also...
All the top journos go to Ange press conferences, Jake?
he also, he understands the feeling of the fans. And I think he absolutely summed it up brilliantly. And we should have full faith in what's going on at the club at the moment, in my view.
Okay.
Oh, you don't? You don't have faith in the general...
We
Have you
discussed
met
this just now.
Have you met Jonny?
Oh, is that...
Look, first of all, I'm one of the
faith?
people he said, I'm not that patient, obviously, but this isn't just a reaction to Saturday. For me, this has been
the performances haven't been good enough.
I don't know. Is it really... I agree. What he said about Villa and the game away at Arsenal. Let's face it, everyone had Arsenal down to win that game before the weekend. So I still think... And Villa really did produce the performance of the season. I still think they've got Europe. I mean, we'll probably lose games as well.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't think it's done and done. I don't think that's it.
Villa
will definitely drop points between now and the end of the season.
I do wonder if teams
well.
like Arsenal, City, Liverpool might just suit us a bit. I mean, listen, it could go terribly wrong, but it might just suit us a bit better. We might have a bit more space to play in. They're not going to defend their box and sit in a low block against us.
No, but they might. It's interesting that I've heard listened to a couple of podcasts, one Spurs, one non-Spurs, talking about those games where they may just make us fall into traps that Newcastle did.
The other thing is, though, you said about the other thing about Villa, and you said about us at the weekend. Villa did to Arsenal a little bit what Newcastle tried to do to us. There was a really good piece on Monday Night Football last night. They spoke about how they used Martinez, the goalkeeper, as more than because everyone says a goalie's got to be able to play. It completely screwed with Arsenal's man-to-man press. And that was clear that that was something they worked on, and they did a proper job on Arsenal there. And in the same way that Newcastle did a proper job on us, I just think sometimes, I know you're saying it's like a long-term problem. Sometimes managers outthink managers. Players outplay players. Sometimes I don't think the managers get given enough credit.
I think Emery's by the way, I think Emery's a top coach.
Eddie Howe's also a good manager, and he can't. Why did he get the Newcastle job? Because he overperformed. Well, no, he got Bournemouth on the whole to perform better than the sum of their parts. And he used to get a lot of stick for their defending. Now I know they're a lower down club with lesser players and that kind of thing. But the reason he got the Newcastle job wasn't because of the way that Bournemouth defended. It was because of the football that Bournemouth played and the way they attacked.
Yeah.
So
anyway, good coaches: Silva, Howe, Emery. Some really top coaches in this league. There was Danny Kelly on A View from the Lane talked about how, I think it was an article, from The Athletic, about how Newcastle had in the warm up. They warm up before the game. They'd warmed up in a 4. To trick Tottenham, basically, and then they started the game with a 5, and they completely outdid us. Don't know. These top coaches will do you. So that's where I'm at.
I thought that I thought that when we all said when we played Arsenal that the game plan that we took to them at the Emirates was spot on, and Ange didn't necessarily outdo Arteta, but he wasn't outdone. He was very much matched him. So
those first 10 games feel like a long time ago, and I do wonder whether we
Well,
surprised teams, and also we had such a bad.
maybe, but that's what the Premier League's all about. You can't just play.
But we were defending better. Was that maybe because they were so defensive under Conte before that? They were kind of still stuck in that a little bit. It was a
No,
mixed bag.
I think we caught.
Fine, we caught teams by surprise,
Definitely.
and they've found we've been found out. We know that.
A little
End of
bit.
story.
Yeah.
You wanted me to update you on the Tottenham under-18s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're losing 1-0.
Oh, against bottom of the league, Norwich.
Bottom of the league, Norwich.
Shit. I mean, they've got. It's a bit unfair because I think for whatever reason they've got to make up a couple of games. So you're asking 18-year-old kids to play back-to-back games. They played on Saturday. They're playing again right now. It's a tough ask.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is real glass half full stuff. If Arsenal lose to Bayern, or if they beat them and have to go, a real emotional, energy-sapping game, and then they get done over by Wolves, suddenly the title's finished.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe then that game at ours, suddenly they're a different side coming to us.
He's hoping.
You never know. Wolves,
Okay.
as you said, Wolves are a good side. You wouldn't want to be playing Wolves. Are they playing Wolves away?
Yeah.
Wolves away after Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Wolves can be a funny team.
Yeah, let's see. You never know. I'm more interested, I have to say, in the Chelsea. Well, not more interested, but the Chelsea game is one that maybe less obviously interests me because Chelsea have suddenly.
Yeah.
Chelsea
Seven
would
matches
be the
unbeaten,
example
is
of the team. Chelsea could finish 6th this season.
They've
If Chelsea
sorted them
finished
out.
6th, what kind of season have they had? But
Going back to what you said about finishing the season well.
Right, but because their best part of their season has been in the last whatever, but the narrative behind Chelsea is they've been rubbish, they are rubbish, Pochettino doesn't know what he's doing, they've bought too many players. All of a sudden, if they finish 6th, where on earth has that come from?
Yeah, but forget the narrative. And I genuinely think that's something we try to do on this pod. Look deeper than
Right.
that. And I just feel, for me, on
And
the
so
Poch thing, it's not
all
just
in all-
about, I'm a nice guy, I've won this at Celtic and Joker have whatever. I'm looking at being schooled by Howe, O'Neill, Emery. Not
All
Emery.
right, but does he not get the opportunity to learn? It's his first season.
He
in the Premier
absolutely
League.
does.
Right, so
So,
there you
and I
go.
don't want him out. So I'll be wrong and you can all
Why
tell
do you want
me
him
that.
out?
It's not a question of right or wrong, right? I think
Well,
you're
it
right.
will
I
be.
think
He
he has
That's
to.
what-
just said he wants him out.
I think you're right. He has to evolve. He has to develop. But I think he's shown throughout his career that actually he
Yeah.
hasn't played the same way from day one. He's never just achieved the success everywhere he's gone because he's always done exactly the same things. There's more nuance to it, and there's a lot more to it than that.
I'm
So-
sure people will give me pelters
Less-
in the YouTube comments.
Less
Please
than a
use
year
them.
in, he wants riots and you want Ange out.
He wants
I want
riots. That was Jake
riots.
Sanders.
Oh, that was Jake Sanders.
Yeah.
It was inciting riots.
Inciting riots.
Right,
Joking.
should we talk about something really positive?
Yeah.
Which we mentioned at the top of the show.
Most positive thing.
Spurs are on their way to Wembley. The anniversary of the 1991, our last semi-final win, was the 14th of April 1991. Yeah. 14th of April
No, you're
2024.
right, before you say it, I don't remember it.
No, you don't remember it. So, should we talk to a true legend of Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah.
Let's do that right now. Delighted to be joined by a true legend of Tottenham Hotspur. Over 200 appearances, captain the side, over 12 seasons. Welcome to an Echo of Glory, Jen Schillaci.
Hi guys, how are you all?
We're good, thank you. Buzzing on the back of Sunday. Obviously a bad day for the men's team on Saturday, but the women turned it around on Sunday. I was there. I know you were pitch side working with the club. Just describe your emotions. How was it for you on Sunday?
Oh, it was a bit of a roller coaster. So many emotions. I mean, when we got to about the 70th minute mark and we still hadn't got an equaliser,
Yeah.
I had my heads in my hands, and then it all just turned around extra time. I think as soon as we scored, as soon as Jess scored, I thought it was only ever going to go one way. And at full-time whistle, I had tears in my eyes, and then got to celebrate with the team on the pitch, which was absolutely unreal. And I think I had my niece there actually, and all her little friends, and they were just absolutely buzzing, just getting messages saying, see you at Wembley, Auntie Jen. Like, it's incredible. I think, it was an unreal day. I thought the supporters were amazing. And it still actually feels like a dream. I had to pinch myself when I woke up on Monday morning.
Have you seen the players since? Are they back in training? How have they been since?
They would be back in today. I'm heading over to that side this afternoon, but spoke to a few of them on messages, like absolutely buzzing. Obviously got to catch up with Becky briefly after the match, Jess and Ash, and obviously they're players that I played with. Ash, we spoke about her journey, and when she first joined us, she was travelling down 3 nights a week. She was a full-time teacher, travelling down from Birmingham 3 nights a week to train, and now she's going to Wembley. I mean, it's stuff that dreams are made of. So yeah, they're all absolutely buzzing, and I mean, what an opportunity. I think the draw, obviously pulling Man United in the final. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Don't want to think too far ahead. I'm a Spurs fan as well, so I know what we're like.
Yeah.
Jenna, it's interesting that you start talking about some of the players who women's football generally has gone through a huge evolution, but particularly Tottenham. I'm very lucky because I've got a daughter that I'm introducing to football through women's football as it grows. But I think people don't appreciate where Spurs have come from because this season is unprecedented, right? We've beaten Arsenal for the first time. And people will say, well, how's that possible? Because they don't appreciate where Tottenham have come from versus a team like Arsenal. We're in a cup final for the first time. So just contextualise to us, based on your journey, how you joined Tottenham, where they were, what you went through with Spurs, all the way through, just a potted history to put into context how big this actually is and the progress this club has made.
Yeah, well, when I first joined when I was a 16-year-old, and before that, I didn't know women's football teams existed because all I ever saw was men's teams. So we had season tickets at White Hart Lane. So I used to go there every weekend with my brothers, and I'd always dream of being a footballer, but it wasn't really a realistic dream. I dreamt of playing at White Hart Lane, but never in a million years would think that I would get to do that. And then I saw a little section in the programme about the women, that Tottenham had a women's team. So I showed it to my dad and I said, as soon as I'm 16, you have to take me there. And he did. And it was, I mean, a million miles away from what it's like today. They had the last slot on the Astra. I think it was like 9 till 10 o'clock at night. I was the youngest player by about 15 years because it's just straight. There was no pathways. It was straight into women's football. The warm-up was running around an estate in Tottenham. So my mum followed us, I think, in the car just to make sure we got back all right. And there was no real coaching. It was literally turn up and play. And I absolutely loved it. And like our matches would be at Hackney Marshes at the weekend on a Sunday. We were playing in, my mum actually got the pictures out a couple of days ago. I was playing in, it was a men's kit, but it was from about 4 seasons out of date that had been donated by the club. It was down to my ankles. Obviously, I was tiny back then, like just sleeves just dangling while I was playing. So that was my first experience at being at Tottenham. And then I left and I went to uni and come back when I was 23. And the club had started to form a connection with the women's team. But still then it was run by volunteers. There was Glenn Weaver, who was there when I was 16, was still pumping money into it out of his own pocket and just for the love of the club. And but when I went back, it felt a bit different. There was Karen Hills was there, who also worked at Tottenham. There was a physio, which we didn't have before. You just had a bucket and a sponge and some magic water. And then an assistant coach, Jojo. There was a first team and a reserves team, and I was playing with people more my age this time. So I absolutely loved it. And I was actually thinking about quitting then when I was 23, because I just got back from uni. I was like, right, I need to get a job. But yeah, I fell back into love with it. And then I retired then when I was 36. But I guess to put it into perspective, the journey, on the day that, on Sunday, I had a memory come up on my phone. And 8 years ago, we won our first ever Ryman's Cup, which is crazy. At Cheshunt, we probably had 20 fans there. And it was that season. The next season was when the club invested and we started to climb through the pyramids. So that, I guess, 8 years on, they're now going to Wembley. It's crazy. But yeah, we obviously progressed through the pyramids. So went from grassroots to semi-professional, went into the championship where we were all balancing full-time jobs. This is when Ash obviously joined, but balancing full-time jobs, training 4 nights a week, travelling anywhere over the country, up to Manchester. So there was so many sacrifices from everybody. It was a lot of hard work. There were ups, there were downs to get to the WSL. And yeah, we eventually got the promotion and became professional in 2019. So actually, when you look at the scale of things in the last 8 years, it's an incredible journey. And I think the club are now fully invested in the women's team. And I think you can see that a lot this season. You can't see it here, but round the back, the women have got their own facilities, world-class facilities. We've got our under-16s are on their way from the stadium now. They're going to be training out on the pitch behind me. Our 21s will be playing here. They train here every week. So as a whole, the infrastructure is excellent. And this club's only really going one way. And I think
Amazing.
a day like, beating Arsenal at the stadium, getting to Wembley, beating Man City, I think it's been a huge season. It's like really, really special moments. But especially after last season where we nearly get relegated. So incredible turnaround, and everyone's absolutely buzzing here.
I suppose the next question really, or going forward, is the big, obviously, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. How do you think maybe we try and bridge the gap or get to that next level based on, obviously where we've come from?
Yeah, I think the wheels are in motion with that. I think if you look at the types of players that we're investing in, they're a lot younger now. So there's a real project the staff, getting the right staff around. Obviously, Robert's come in and they're investing heavily in staff. And I think that's so important in the women's game, because you can have these world-class players, but actually the staff aren't being invested in when actually they are now here. There's also plans for a multi-million-pound women's and girls only centre to be built just next to Tottenham Training Centre, which, Daniel Levy, and when he builds things, he builds the best in the world. So again, that's going to be a game changer in attracting players. But I think, the calibre of players is also obviously changing. I think here as a club, it's a really one club fits all. Now you can see in the playing styles as well, the men, the women are mirroring the men, the girls' academy are mirroring it, and the boys' academy. So it feels like a special time. And I think that bridge is closing. The gap is closing massively. You've seen it already this season. I think we had Chelsea first game of the season at Stamford Bridge and really unlucky, lost 1-0 and could have taken something from that. Beaten Man City now, beaten Arsenal. So it's definitely, the players have confidence and that gap is closing. And I think the WSL in general, the teams are investing, and the competition's getting a lot harder. There are no easy teams, and the walkovers that used to be you don't really see it happening anymore in the WSL, and that's due to money investment, broadcasting investment, and everything that goes back into the clubs.
Going back to the journey, my first centre forward partner was Kelly Smith. Used to play up front with her at Garston Boys. I say play with her. She took my spot, and I never got it back because she was that good. And so I followed her. I followed her journey, and obviously as a Tottenham fan, I followed the journey of the club. And it's amazing to get to a cup final. Are you confident now? Those days, the struggles you've had, and people like Kelly had, are behind women's football, certainly in this country.
Oh God, yeah, it's a million miles away. And people always ask me, would I change my journey? But I don't know if I would, because that's our journey allowed, a pathway and what the players have today. But of course, I was very jealous on Sunday, of course. But I know, like, we've got our 16s now. They're out of school here today on Tuesday. They have everything. They've got about 10 sets of kit. They get fed. They've got the best coaching in the country. We've got workshops with them regularly just to support them away from the pitch as well. So the infrastructure, as I said, is there for them. And I think, those days are long gone. And I think each season now, especially with the amount of investment from broadcasters, I think the WSL is the league where we're seeing all the top players come to now, whereas before it used to be America. Now they're all coming here. So I can honestly, I think the next 10 years are going to be so exciting for women's football. I think it's the fastest growing sport, and I just think it's rocketing each season.
Great. And just short term, 12th of May at Wembley. We've not beaten Man United, 10 games, 9 defeats, 1 draw. Can we do it?
Well, they've got them this weekend, this Sunday, so it'll be a good tester. I think, it's FA Cup. Absolutely anything can happen. I think if you'd have asked for Chelsea or Man United in the final, you'd have taken Man United.
Am I right that Grace Clinton?
I was about to ask.
Is Grace Clinton play? No,
she can't play.
No.
So
she might have wanted Chelsea.
She probably would have wanted Chelsea. But no, bless her, she can't play. She's been phenomenal.
Shame. She's been sensational.
But I think, I think they'll go there with full intentions now that they can do it, and they've obviously got the confidence. They've beaten some very good teams to get there. So, I'm going with we're going to bring the cup home.
Jen, just from everybody on this pod, I just want to contextualise Jen Schillaci to Tottenham women is Steve Perryman, Gary Mabbott, Ledley King to Tottenham men. An absolute legend, a pioneer of the women. What an honour and a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
I agree. I echo that.
Thank you for having me.
Jen, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, we're ending on a high.
Looks nice, the training ground, doesn't it? Even just through the Zoom.
Great to talk to someone who's been a legend at the club. And Gary, you said it. He really is up there. People might not know this, and that's just fine. That's just the way it is with the growing
Doing Adam
game.
Richmond.
I think,
read about it.
Whatever happens with Spurs women, they sit on the shoulders of Jen Schillaci. That forevermore, because that's just the way that it is. She captained that club. She guided them from through the divisions right up to the WSL. I think she only actually herself ended up playing 1 or 2 seasons.
3 games.
3 games in the WSL. So her whole career
was fighting for that.
Fighting to get Tottenham there. And so where Spurs women are now and forevermore will be sits on the shoulders of somebody like Jen Schillaci, and it shouldn't be understated.
Agreed.
Proper football woman.
Jake.
What more could you ask for?
I unfortunately won't be able to go to that game because I'm going to be working on it for the British Broadcasting Corporation.
There you go.
Which is a real disappointment, but I'll be there. You going to go?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to take my daughter. We were following the game in the garden, like I said, and when we scored, we both went mad, and then when we got the winner, like I just called her over and we're dancing around singing "Spurs are on their way to Wembley." It's so lovely. It is really. I just didn't think that I put my hand on my heart. I didn't think women's football was something I'd ever get into myself. But the quality is outstanding.
Yep.
The day out is great. Really reasonable pricing. Like it's a great day out. And I'm not saying that. I mean, I've taken my daughter to Spurs men's, but she genuinely loves going to the women's football, and I think it's a great thing to take our daughters to, and our sons. I'll take him when he's old enough as well. I think it's great. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
You're not going, are you?
I might do.
Okay.
I might do.
You should. I think everyone should go if they can get a ticket.
If I'm not working, I will try and go.
It's going to be a really tough
I'd love
game,
to
and
have
we'll do a
daughters to
preview to it nearer the time. But it's nice to end on a positive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have to say though, I think women's football, and I follow cricket as well. Because
where you're going with this.
I was going to say because these sports as kind of on the par with the men's sports are in their infancy. That's where they want to get to, but they've had the benefit almost of in terms of the way the sport is run and the way that the matches are organised and the ticket pricing and all this kind of thing. Now I get the money's not the same, but because they've kind of had the benefit to look at how the men's games, and it's the same in cricket, they are sort of taking a lot of the best bits from it and then moulding it themselves to make that fan experience. And the way in cricket they do, for example, the way that the series are structured, they may be, and you kind of think sometimes with the men's game, if they were able to restart and do it all again, that's perhaps more along the
I
line
think
that
one of
they
the
would
biggest
go.
things is the game on Sunday being at the stadium and not with respect to Brisbane Road, Leighton Orient.
Right.
Just starting to play games at the men's stadium is massive.
They have played a few games.
They have.
Yeah.
They beat Arsenal there earlier in the season. You have to think, like, if that game had been at Brisbane Road, would we have beaten Arsenal? It has to have an impact. But I think Robert Villam mentioned if you remember the get together at the beginning of the season with Ange, Robert Villam, Beth England was there,
And Daniel Levy.
They mentioned if you build it, they will come, or something along those lines, and that was essentially saying, if us the fans have the demand to come, then they will put on more games at the stadium, and it is what they want to do. I think it's a difficult metric just for the club. I wouldn't go down to Brisbane Road. So if they're sort of assessing it on the crowds that are at Brisbane Road, it's a harder
It's also
metric.
difficult because I don't think many people are going to go to Spurs Bristol City at a home game.
I think
it's
in
still
time,
growing.
I think there is no doubt for me that in time, I don't know when that time is, but all the women's games will be played at Tottenham.
I think we're starting to see
maybe not
more and
next
more.
season or the season after, but there will be a point. And if you've been, for kids growing up or whatever, if you're still a fan in 20 years' time, this kind of infancy period will just be a distant memory, and it will just be, that's just what it will be, I think.
All right, well, we're going to Wembley, so
Happy
it's
days.
exciting. Right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I don't know if we're seeing you next week.
No, I don't know yet. I don't know.
Might just be me on my own. You coming in next week?
I'll be here.
Okay, good. We can
Imagine if it's you just on your own, just having a little rant.
Monologue.
I think Ange should like that.
for the record.
Nobody here to rein you in.
For the record, Ange in. Don't at me. Ange in.
Don't watch.
And don't slap me.
It'd be very boring if we just sat here and all agreed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a game of opinions.
Jeff.
Mine's just better than yours. No, it's not. Brilliant. Gentlemen, thank you. Spurs are on their way to Wembley, and up the Spurs.